our special keynote speaker, in person of His Excellency Prince Adewole Adebayo, to come and make this. Thank you very much. Great Nigerian students. Great Nigerian students. Okay, we will do it in a didactic way. So we discuss as a family, we pay attention, it will be short, it will be brief, it will be something that at the end of it, we'll be able to interrogate what we have achieved at the end of today's discourse. I'm also paying my respect to the Vice Chancellor of the university, Professor Fahimi, who I must tell you is my cousin. So I'm feeling at home here. And the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, who is, luckily for me, my namesake. I thank the chairman of the occasion. I'm very happy that the chairman of the occasion is represented by a counselor, because as social scientists, you will discover, or even political scientists, you discover that the most important person in politics is the counselor. Because that's the person who represents your ward. That's the person who cannot escape from you, because he must live within that community. If you have any problem, you can easily grab him. So, and if you understand your problems at the very basic level, then you will not be disturbing the federal government, who is far away from you. I am happy to have other keynote speakers here, and I'm happy to see Dr. Umaru Kurangai, the Seki Fulani Gombe. So it's good to see you here. And Dr. Umar Yakasai is going to feature in my discussion today, because we are discussing entrepreneurship, issue of JAPA, and what do we do with all of this. And you will see that a country that can make you a medical doctor, a public health specialist, you also go to government as government house doctor, and then you go into business, studying business administration. Then now you go into politics as a good explainer of one of the most impossible to explain government, and you are explaining it. So that country has prepared you well, and it means to you that in this country, there isn't anything we want to do that we cannot do. Let me explain why I want us to understand the problematization of solutions. Because in social sciences, we are here to study man in his environment, man in society, how man interacts in society. By man, I mean both men and women, children and adults, how we interact with institutions in our society. So when I came here, I started wearing the hat of a social scientist. I listened to the music, the kind of music that you played, how you reacted to the music, what mood you find yourself. When we were to sing national anthem, I saw that people had to encourage you and persuade you and remind you that we need to stand up and national anthem. And the national anthem, we only play one stanza, we didn't play the rest of it. All of these come together to represent what our state of mind is as a society, and before we go into the issue of JAPA. JAPA is well known, is the notion that when a Nigerian confronts challenges of development, challenges of growth, or is in search of opportunities, they look outside and think that first, leaving Nigeria is itself an achievement. When I get there, I will discover what I will do. And so it is a notion that has two components. Component number one is the physical, that if you leave Nigeria, you can escape from Nigeria and go somewhere, you have achieved something. It's an achievement on its own. Secondly, the mental state of mind that there are more solutions outside than inside. So my attitude to JAPA is nuanced, because people who are established in Nigeria, they have this attitude of telling people, stay in Nigeria, don't JAPA, don't go anywhere. As if staying in Nigeria itself is a virtue. Staying in Nigeria is not a virtue, going outside is not a virtue. Everything is nuanced. The first thing you need to realize is that every generation in Nigeria has done one JAPA or the other. Because if there was no JAPA, there was no reason for my grandfather to go to Farabi College in Sierra Leone to go and school, and to go to London School of Economics to study under Harulaski. So, but if you were still alive, it's late now. If you were still alive, he would tell you, stay in Nigeria, don't JAPA. But in his own time, there were no universities. So he had to go to Farabi College to school. And later went to London School of Economics. So they came back to Nigeria, and Nigeria became good for them. And so what you expect is that if Nigeria provides for the next generation, they will not JAPA, because his own children, even though he went to Farabi College and other places, his own children went to the University of Ibadan. They went to Ife. So they went to Zaria. So they didn't have to ABUJA'S Zaria. They didn't have to JAPA them. So let us understand that the leaders of Nigeria who will tell you don't JAPA, they go every month abroad for medical treatment. They can JAPA where they need it, but they will tell you not to JAPA. So let us not stigmatize the concept of JAPA, so that the young people will not look at us as hypocrites and say you are JAPA. Let me give you a personal example. I'm a lawyer licensed in America. I practice in New York, California, and federal courts. I practice in Australia. I practice in many places. As I'm talking to you, I have arbitration in London, in Canada, and Singapore. I school in Singapore. I became a fellow. So am I the one who will tell you not to JAPA now? So the question is, JAPA to do what? And the people of Nigeria understand that it is even JAPA that brought many of the communities we find in Nigeria to be here. Many of the people we find in Nigeria today, originally, they came from Central Africa, they came from the Gulf of Guinea, they came from the Sudan, some, the ancestors came from what is today Senegal, Mali. So human migration is a fact of history. So to tell people, stay here, don't JAPA, I can tell you a few countries that have tried it, it hasn't worked. Because in East Germany, where after the Second World War and Germany collapsed, the country was divided into two. You had East Germany and West Germany. And there were family members in both sides. And when they discovered that life was easier in East Germany, people were living, in West Germany, people were living in East Germany and coming to West Germany. That was why the Soviet Union agreed with the East German government to build the Berlin Wall. And today, the symbol of the collapse of division in the world, East and West, is the collapse of the Berlin Wall. If you look at today, North Korea and South Korea, they are the same people, same country. Why is it that there is nobody in South Korea telling you, don't JAPA to North Korea? But people in North Korea are being preached to every day, don't JAPA to South Korea. So, what I want us to understand is that JAPA is not our problem. It is maybe a wrong solution for some people, it's the right solution for some people. But because it is not a sustainable solution for a large number of people, because the place you are going to, they have a limited accommodation for you to come. Therefore, you might need to find homegrown solution to your problem, but at any point in time, that element of JAPA cannot be eliminated. Because if you want to advance, if today I become president and I want to do a nuclear program, I will have to get some Nigerians to go abroad and study it. And they will JAPA for about 5 years, 10 years, depending on how long it takes to get them to that level. And every country that has achieved anything, if you look at the Manhattan Project in America, and you will see that two countries develop atomic energy and atomic bomb at the same time. USSR and United States of America, USA and USSR. But you will find out, why did they do it at the same time? They did it because the country that had the best capacity for nuclear technology, nuclear energy, and nuclear weaponry was Germany. And Germany was developing it. When Germany collapsed after the Second World War, some of the scientists moved to the USA. Oppenheimer and some of them, they built the Manhattan Project there. Some of them moved to Soviet Union and they built for them. So what I'm letting us understand is that let us not have a negative connotation of JAPA. So how do we now streamline to ensure that only the good JAPA happens and the bad one does not happen? It is the objective condition in the country. The objective condition in the country, if it's so good, you will not tell anybody not to JAPA, because there is no Nigerian who has a secure job in a secure environment with good pension in sight, with good income at hand, living comfortably with his family, who will go abroad and be in the snow in one bedroom, sharing with 3 people, running away from the police and immigration. You don't need to preach to anybody that they don't need to JAPA at that stage. So where do we find, therefore, the objective condition that will ensure that we don't waste our time discussing this JAPA issue? The objective condition is to be found in Chapter 2 of the Constitution of Nigeria. It's called the Fundamental Objectives and Directive Principle of State Policy. That Chapter 2 starts from Section 14 of the Constitution up to Section 23 of the Constitution. The reason why we are discussing all of this is because successive governments over time have run away from implementing Chapter 2 of the Constitution. When you implement Chapter 2 of the Constitution, you will not need to tell anybody to JAPA or not to JAPA. What does he say? He says that the sovereignty of Nigeria will rest with the people. It means that the people themselves will form their own government, starting with our brother, the councillor here, up to people like us who want to be president. We know that pleasing the people, interacting with the people, taking authority from the people is the foundation of forming government, and the people become important in their own country. Second, it says that the essence of our government will be to establish a society of social justice and democracy. Therefore, if you have a society that has social justice and democracy, people of that country will have a sense of belonging, they will have the freedom, and they will stay there. The next thing it says that when we form a government, security of the people and the welfare of the people will be the primary objective of the government. And you know that the reason why we are at the University of Abuja studying in any of the sciences, social sciences, or other courses, is because we passed primary school very well, we passed secondary school very well, some even did some tertiary before coming here, or at least we are here doing tertiary. So any person who fails primary education, that's the end, can't go anywhere. So when it is said in the Constitution that security and welfare of the citizen is the primary duty of government, so if you have a society where the government doesn't have security for you and doesn't have welfare for you, it means that that government cannot progress. It has failed primary education. It has failed primary. If you fail the primary, that's the end. So we must go back to that conversation. At the end of today, how can we provide security and welfare for the people? And that, we have enough wise people here to discuss that. And I'm happy that majority of people who are here are youths. And the minister representing you in government is ably represented here. So you can have enough opportunity to speak to a member of the Federal Executive Council, somebody who works with the president, who sees the president every day or every other day, and you can discuss what the youth constituency of Nigeria wants the government to look like. Now, I will use the remainder of my time, because I know I have, according to the book, I have 40 minutes. I will use the remainder of the time to give us a schematic framework of how to lay a foundation for a society where, by the time you get to this level in your educational attainment, you are past the level where somebody will tell you whether to JAPA or not. Because you have been prepared from primary, secondary, and university to understand the fact that you are the owner of your country and you are the shaper of what the country will look like. And you are the one who will reimagine the country to create what you want out of your head. Therefore, I'm happy that the university is paying attention to entrepreneurship, and many parts of our society, many organs, are now laying emphasis on entrepreneurship. But where I have a little query is that, are you going to have 250 million go to 300 million country of entrepreneurs? Because Nigeria is not a commercial enterprise. It used to be under the Royal Niger Company. That's why we have problem. Because when they set up Nigeria, they set up as a trading area by the Royal Niger Company under Tubman Goldie. But when we go independence, we wanted to become a social enterprise. So Nigeria is not a commercial enterprise. So if you are training people on how to make adire, how to tie your gele, how to do this, fine. If you understand macroeconomics, you only need about 11% of the population to do that. You cannot have a population that majority of you are doing gele, adire, tie and dye, wood carving, because Nigeria is a social enterprise. So you need to, the university is not meant to produce traders. It's meant to produce philosophers and thinkers, people who will imagine the country the way it should be. So let us not, therefore, allow the failure of our governmental deliveries to make us to abandon the social sector that the government must develop and turn ourselves to traders. Because I can tell you, I go around the world and I meet trading communities. If you go to India, they have certain sections of their population, certain ethnic groups who are traders. You will not find them in the social services, in the civil services, in anywhere, in the professions. But you find them setting up companies all over the world as traders. If you meet Lebanese, you will find that in many countries of the world, in any continent, you might find Lebanese business people who are billionaires. But if you look at the country of Lebanon, they cannot maintain simple social order in that country. So my recommendation is that don't turn your youth to traders who will say, well, I'm an undergraduate, I'm studying physics, but I can go to Benin Republic, buy clothes and sell, because now I'm an entrepreneur. No, I think we need to be very careful in how that goes. The next thing is that the youth cannot be disengaged from government. And one of the challenges that I see when I interact with youth, last time, 4 years ago, when I started running for president under the SDP, and I started interacting with the youth, I immediately knew that I was in trouble. Because the youth used to ask me how I will help them when I get to government. Those who run government all over the world are the youth. So at this stage, when you are graduating from university, you should mentally already be placing yourself in the leadership of your country. And it may sound very academic to say so, because in Nigeria today, the measure of whether you have made it or not is based on how much money you have made. So the youth always tell me, you don't have money, you don't have this, you don't have that. I will tell you that the greatest thing any billionaire is looking for in the world is time. Time is the enemy of everybody. Time is the only thing you cannot buy. Time is the reason why Voyager 2 and Voyager 1 that we launched 50 years ago have not reached anywhere in space. Because time, you can't buy time. And what do the youths have in Nigeria? The youths of Nigeria have billions of years in time. Therefore, If you use your time well and you interact and bind together in society and empower yourself, you will be able to shape the future of your country. I joined the SDP, my political party, when I was 19 years old. I joined in 1991. And I've been highly influential in the party since that time. And when the party went into decree, military, after Abiola won the election, they annulled, they banned the party. We still continue to work with people. Eventually, we brought the party back. And few decades later, I became the presidential candidate of that party. I'm now the leader of that party. Maybe by next Saturday, I will be running again as presidential candidate of that party. What it means is that when you are a youth and you engage in your society on time, you have enough time to grow and develop in that society and become influential. So my second submission is that we should alert the youth that the conditions that result in situations that make you want to JAPA, they cannot be divorced from the failure of organization of our government in society. Therefore, if you want to prevent this question of JAPA to become such a dirty word, we need to participate in government. And how do you participate in government? It's not very expensive to participate in government. You need to first have interest. The way we participate in music, memorize all the lyrics of all the songs, participate in all the social programs, know the update every day on the Premier League of United Kingdom, know everything. We need to know what is going on in our government, who is ruling our society, who is the councillor here, did he get there? All of these issues we need to know. Second to that is that we need to understand our constitution and know our duty as citizens. And if you look at chapter 2, which I'm referencing, the role is vested on the citizen. So the citizen needs to understand this country. The third thing is that we need to seek knowledge. We need to be a society of seekers of knowledge. If you are a good seeker of knowledge, when you want to JAPA or go anywhere, it will happen that majority of your people can leave it, they should leave quietly so that we can continue. So the rest of the 7 minutes available to me, I will summarize it to mean that one, you need to be a society of knowledge, because without knowledge, you cannot function well in your country, and if you JAPA, you will not be able to do well in that country. The fourth thing I want to pay attention to is that institutions that hold society together, because the reason why we are here having this conversation is because the University of Abuja as an institution has been set up, and that institution is using its mandate to bring us together. Therefore, there are institutions across the country, and those institutions must function. And for them to function, the youth must have a role to play in it. Now, let me now go to the last part. Now, for those who are interested in enterprise, especially commercial enterprise, we need to understand that within Nigeria, there are sufficient avenues to develop entrepreneurship skills. And entrepreneurship is not limited to trading, because every sector of knowledge, every profession has its own commercial component. For example, I'm a lawyer. I could have joined the civil services, I could have joined the judiciary, I could have joined the military, I could have joined the academia, I could have joined the corporate world, but I decided to be an entrepreneur of law. I set up a law firm. So that law firm itself is a business. So if anybody is teaching you entrepreneurship, it doesn't mean that if you are studying law, you leave your law profession and then go and learn hairstyling. You can learn entrepreneurship on your line of work. If you study political science, you could work in the public service, you could work in the military and paramilitary, you could work in the academia, You could work in businesses. Then you could also become a political consultant. You could become a writer and sell your books. So the concept of entrepreneurship is not limited to going to trading. And we need to understand that. And the same thing for medicine, the same thing for engineering, all fits. So what you can do, therefore, is, in conclusion, is that you must master your core profession first. You must be a master of whatever course of study that you are involved in. Once you master that, it is easier for you to now add the business component to it, so that you can have financial literacy, you could have digital literacy, and you could have regulatory literacy. So you know that I am a sociologist. If I want to make a business out of my knowledge of sociology, what do I do? So you can now apply it. So the conclusion of all of this is that I will summarize as follows: that because there has been failure of delivery in the target set in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, it has led to a country rich in all kinds of resources, but that is having a population that feels cheated and underserved. As a result of that, many of the components of the society are now thinking that maybe to migrate out of the country is a solution. And because of the way the world is today and the inclement condition in the international community, there are a lot of problems and limitations as to how you can go out. However, even if our country is doing excellently well, like China, like the USA, like most of Europe, you will see that you still find Chinese here, you still find Indians here, you still find Europeans here, because there's no country that's an autarky. Your people will need one thing or the other to go outside for. But it will not be that they are going out as destitute, they will go out as opportunity seekers. And in conclusion, that the youth is not a disability. Youth is just a stage, a phase in life. And I am 53 years old now. I prefer my 23-year-old self to myself, because the 23-year-old me was a strong character who produced the 53-year-old me. So don't feel powerless. 3 things I will leave you with. 1, believe in yourself. And you cannot believe in yourself and not believe in your country. That's it. Anybody say, I believe in myself, I don't believe in my country, it needs to be examined medically. Because that country is part of what you are. So you have to believe in yourself. Second, you have to believe in your neighbors. Because it is very difficult to run a country alone. It is very difficult to run the university alone. So you have to become a social enterprise. So you need to believe in your neighbors. You need to organize with your people, organize to get things done. Lastly, you need to dream. You need to dream about greatness. And you need to work to bring that dream into reality. May God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very interesting one.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.